Hello, lads and lasses of the pipe smoking community of Ireland, pipe smokers of Ireland. How are you today? How the heck are you? I'm smoking one of my Mark Balkovic pipes. I call this the slug. It first time I saw it, kind of reminded me of a slug. I had him make this specially for me a couple years ago, along with a nice cutty I'll smoke sometime. Mark makes great pipes. His pipes are great, but he's real hard to get to answer his emails and stuff. And I was writing him for a while trying to get him to make me some more pipes, but he never returned my email. Mark, if you're hearing this, it's not a slam on you. You're probably busy, but he's not all that accessible. But in any case, this is a wonderful pipe. Beautiful pipe. Love it. Smokes like a dream. And you'll never guess what I'm smoking in it today. Black Gold Plus. It's a bet that I'm going to be smoking 1 of 3 tobaccos anytime I make these videos. Black Gold Plus, or TK6, all from HighlandsCigars.com. HilandsCigars.com. If you order anything there, talk to Scott. Tell Scott I sent you so that he knows how much business I'm sending him, because then he sends me cool stuff. So, somebody asked me a question. They're always asking me this. I don't know why. Do I dye my hair? First of all, no, I don't wear a wig. This is all my hair. I don't know why it's still dark, but it is. My beard turned white, gosh, probably 10 years ago. That's what you get for raising a daughter, I think. But no, it just turned prematurely gray, and I don't know what's going on here. It looks like somebody hit me with some white paint and salt and pepper here and there. I don't know. But this is it. It seems to be creeping up. Every once in a while I get a bunch of white stuff in my eyebrows, but other than that, this is how God made me, such as it is. A woman, the other day when I was working out at the gym, a woman came up to me and said, "You know, you remind me a lot of Mickey Rourke." And then she walked away, and I'm thinking to myself, before or after his 15 failed cosmetic surgeries? What the heck did that mean anyway? I don't know. In any case, here I am. I'm late. It's just early afternoon here in Fresno, so I can still make my deadline as one of the residents of the PSOI. And we're working through a kind of a talk I started a while ago on masculine morality, masculine maturity, morality, virtue, because it's a subject that is woefully neglected. And again, if you've listened to any of my stuff, you understand that I'm countering something. I'm pushing against something, and so you're going to feel that push. And of all the talks I've got given so far, today will probably brand me even more of a misogynist, a female woman hater kind of a guy, because what I'm about to say is not true. And in fact, this year, I'm turning a 15-year attention toward men back toward women again, and lifting up the value and the personhood of women. But right now I'm countering something, and I want to make that clear. What I'm countering is the feminazi, if not feminazi, female chauvinist, misandrist message over the years that women are better than men, women are more virtuous than men, And all that whole movement was countering the opposite, which for years was male chauvinism, in which men were better than women. Men are not better than women. Women are not better than men. But we are different. And the scripture says that God made them male and female. And as a result, we're differentiated, and we're differentiated for different roles. We have different brains. We have different chemistry. We think differently. We don't think the same. Portions of our brain are used differently. Women use the neocortex side of their brain, the front part of their brain, the rational reasoning part of their brain, a lot more than men do. Men use the base of their brain a lot for their reasoning. We think in terms of competition, in terms of protection, in terms of provision, in terms of fixing, doing. We have a performance orientation or performance mandate that drives us. And once again, there's always going to be a man that says, I'm different than that. Okay, we can operate fairly with an 80-20% rule. 80% of the men are like this. And we can fairly say that it is a masculine trait. Females, on the other hand, operate with a relational or bonding imperative. And therefore, they're driven toward relationship, understanding relationship. They're driven toward compassion and empathy. It's different. Men show empathy by encouragement. Women show empathy by care and concern. Different. And God made us different for a reason. We're supposed to complement one another. We're not be in competition with one another. But men on the whole have been injured by 60 years or more of radical feminism. It's false studies and research that have no background, no basis in any kind of reality, that diminished men, denigrated men, basically took the way God made men and made it look like we're apes, that we're sexual predators, that we are not in touch with our feelings, that we're cruel and merciless and whatever. Not true. And as a pastor, trying to help men be more virtuous, more balanced in terms of their steel qualities and in their velvet qualities, I hit a roadblock at this idea that men have believed the story about themselves that has been preached to them through the media, through commercials, through sitcoms, through sports. Virtually every kind of media you can imagine nails men all the time and tries to bring out their worst parts rather than their best parts. This is where I'm coming from here. I'm trying to lift men up. I'm trying to call men out. I'm trying to call the man out of the man and tell him to step up, tell him to buck up, tell him to be manly, tell him to lead. Not boss, not dominate, but lead his family and lead his wife. It doesn't always mean that he's leading in everything. There's things that men are better at than women are. That's reversed with my wife and I. I'm no good at fixing anything. I'm no good with tools. My wife's good at everything. She goes around fixing stuff. I'm kind of dyslexic, so I don't do well with numbers and stuff. So she helps me with the books, with paying the bills, doing the taxes, that kind of thing. She's just better in a lot of detail-oriented thinking than I am. I'm not detailed at all. I'm a macro thinker, not a micro thinker. The way I think is, let's have a party. Let's invite 100 people. It's going to be great. And Sujay would pepper me with 1,000 million questions about, well, how much it's going to cost? What kind of food are we going to have? What kind of hors d'oeuvres are we going to have? Who's going to sit where? What kind of seating should we have? What kind of arrangement should we have? What kind of dishes should we have? You know, which just takes the inspiration out of having the party for me altogether. One of the lies that get in the way of carving the angel out of the marble, and if you've listened to past videos, you understand that analogy, is the belief by men that women are more moral than they are, that they're more virtuous than they are. That in fact, and I call this the myth of the inherently virtuous or moral woman. And I call that a myth because it is. It's a myth that women are inherently more virtuous or more moral, or that women are inherently virtuous and moral. Women are just as bad as men are. In some ways, worse. And I want to talk about that. And I want it to be safe to talk about that. It ought to be fair to talk about it. It's fair to reverse this conversation and talk about men in the worst possible way, worst possible light. Why can't we talk about women that way? If you're one of the women that are members of our Pipe Club, I don't mean to offend you. If you'll hear me out without having a bug up your sleeve, without having yourself all bowed up in a knot, wanting to hear something that I'm not saying, you'll probably hear it. But for those of you that are guys and gals that would consider yourself feminists, just hear me out. Because I'm not about putting women down. I'm about making it an equal playing field so that men understand that there is a part of their nature that's different than women when it comes to expressing righteousness and goodness and kindness and compassion and empathy, virtue, and the like. And so today I just want to talk briefly about the myth of the inherently virtuous or moral woman. And I'm going to take my quote from feminists. So I'm quoting strong feminists here, not men, women, feminists. And one of them is Courtney Martin. And just bear with me. Courtney Martin wrote this. In the American Prospect, she honestly responded to new research showing that women were far more involved in the atrocities of Hitler's Holocaust than previously thought. And by writing that such findings are really, she says, not surprising. She writes, anyone who reacts with shock to the reality that women have the capacity to be immoral, malicious, and violent hasn't paid enough attention in history class, much less to the nightly news. And Martin admittedly wrote that claiming immunity in the face of real female perpetrated wrongs would be denying our past and our present. Another feminist, Suzanne Reisman, wrote a very interesting article entitled, Are Women Inherently More Moral Than Men? And she wrote it for Feminism magazine, in which she took issue with the belief in Victorian times that women were more morally superior to men. And she disagreed with such moral titles assigned to women as the angel of the house, saying that they perpetuated the myth that women were inherently more virtuous and moral than men by nature. She writes, and I quote, the Victorians excelled at making myths into reality. In fact, the myths of women as guardians of morality was so strong that they persist today and even are embraced by feminists to some extent. As for the belief that women were protectors of morality and virtue, Suzanne Reisman asked, as for that angel in the home protecting morality thing, she refers to a survey by A.V. Flocks of 30,000 stay-at-home moms, which found that 33%, or one-third, cheated on their husbands. She concludes her rather cynical article about feminine morality by writing this, and I quote, "Nope, I'm going to have to say that the Victorians got it wrong, and the Neo-Victorians still have it wrong. When it comes to morality, women and men are on the same slippery footing." And I concur. And once again, from Christian theology, a biblical worldview, it's sin. Women have the same problem men do. And the problem is a sin nature, a fallen nature, a nature that's never completely altruistic, a nature that is always seeking for doing something in the best possible way for yourself, even when it's for others, whether it's to look good, whether it's to that people will think well of you. There's always a part in there that's full of greed and pride and lust and so forth and so forth, perhaps repressed, perhaps packaged in the best wrapping paper, but deep down inside of our souls and inside of our hearts, self is always driving us. And so when it comes to immorality, when it comes to vice, when it comes to crime, when it comes to cruelty, the footing is level between men and women. And that's all I'm saying today. Men are no less virtuous than women are. As for the belief then that women are protectors and that they're the protectors of the virtue of the home, etc., these two strong feminists disagree. And they're not the only ones. I just chose them. The Bible also strongly asserts this, to the point that, feminists will say that the Bible is patriarchal, that the Bible is misogynist, that it's anti-women, when everything's furthest from the truth. Especially Christ was pro-feminist in terms of his love of women, his treatment of women. But take, for instance, the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes 7:27-29 says this, "Look," says the teacher, "this is what I have discovered, adding one thing to another to discover the scheme of things. While I was searching but not finding, I found one upright man among 1,000, but not one upright woman among them all. This only have I found. God made mankind upright, but men have gone in search of many schemes." And then Ecclesiastes 7:26, "And I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, and her hands as bands. Whoso pleaseth God shall escape her, but the sinner shall be taken captive by her." And Genesis 3:17. It says to Adam, he says, "Because you listened to the voice of your wife, in sorrow shalt you eat the produce of the ground all the days of your life." Not that you shouldn't listen to your wife. Not that you shouldn't co-conspire with your wife. Not that you shouldn't be a team with her. But the Bible lays stress on the fact that the man is responsible to lead. The man is responsible to take initiative. The man is responsible for being the protector of the virtuous, righteous decisions of a home. Doesn't mean he does it by himself. It just means that in the end analysis, the decision is left up to him, and he will be judged by the decision that are made. Adam didn't. Adam sat there and watched the serpent tempt his wife, didn't do a darn thing. Just stood there passively by her side the whole time and let it all come down. In the end, she turns to him and says, "Take a bite with me," and he followed her lead. She had no business talking to the serpent. That was his job, but he allowed it to happen, and as a result of that, we've got a whole lot of problems going on right now. Virtuous men in the Bible, like Adam, like Israel, like Samson, David, Solomon, and more, were all tricked by seductive women and passive when they were being seduced. So much for biblical support for the inherent virtue or morality of women. They are intuitively compassionate, yep, but just as inherently passionate for power and prestige, for romance, jealousy, envy, pride, greed, all the things inherent in every fallen human being. And this led the mother of Solomon, Bathsheba, to write to her son that a truly virtuous and moral woman was rare. And she said this when she wrote this: a wife of noble character, or a virtuous woman, who can find? Who can find a virtuous woman? Who can find such a woman? She's worth more than rubies. In other words, she's rare. You don't hear this often. But once again, I know strong feminists who began to reevaluate how they felt about things when they had sons, and when they began to see the give and take between their sons and girls, and when they were trying to raise sons to be men, and found that in fact there wasn't a lot of help in that department, because more and more of the stuff they read denigrated and dismissed and diminished their sons for being male. So all this to say that men can lead in the area of virtue. They can lead in the area of righteousness, goodness, kindness. It's not going to come natural at times to show empathy. When, for instance, a ball game is going on and little Johnny's running up the field to score in soccer, and somebody trips him and he falls down and grabs his leg, mom's first reaction to that is going to be to stop everything, run out on the field, hold her baby, see if he's okay, walk him back, put a bandage on it, whatever. It's a bonding imperative. That's how she shows concern. Her mission is her boy, making sure he's okay and not hurt. Now, father, on the other hand, shows empathy differently. His son, same thing happens, gets kicked in the shins or whatever, falls down, grabs his leg, and the dad's first inclination, after weighing and seeing whether or not it looked like it was a bad injury or not, if it didn't look like that, just looked like a kick, just looked like it hurt, his first reaction is going to be, Johnny, get up. Get up, son, get the ball. Move down the field, come on, do it, get up, get up. Because he's performance oriented. And he's driven by trying to help his son not come to the sidelines and feel better, but to get up and complete the mission. We need both. This world is tough. And it's not going to give any it's not going to give our kids any compassion or kindness or whatever on most occasions. We got to train them to deal with pain, to deal with competition, to be able to say no to themselves, to be self-restrained, to deny their desires for comfort, pleasure, in order to do their duty. So we need the masculine kind of encouragement. But at the same time, men need to learn to be gentle. And they need to learn when the feelings of a person outweigh the completion of the mission. We don't do that naturally. And so we need our wives to help us learn that. And we need to teach our wives how to also at times be encouraging to their sons. Toughen them up, so to speak. There's a good story about this. Forgive me if I told you this before. I probably have, but it was about one of our great presidents. His name was Theodore Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt. Tough son of a gun. And he was a Sunday school teacher at one time. He got fired. What happened was this boy came to Sunday school with his sister, and they were a little bit late, and she was crying. And trailing behind them was a kid with a bloody nose. And Roosevelt asked the boy, "What happened?" The boy said, "Tommy hit me in the nose." He said, "Tommy, come over here. Did you hit him in the nose?" Tommy said, "Yes, sir, I did." He said, "Well, what did you hit him in the nose for?" He said, "Because he was picking on my sister." And Roosevelt gave him a dollar. Said, "Well done." Got fired. Because you see, the church for so long has trumpeted a female-driven kind of righteousness. In fact, I think the church has been one of the greatest feminizing institutions around. They've taught a soft Jesus, curvy hips, looks like a bearded Mother Teresa rather than a raging William Wallace. Jesus was more like William Wallace. And in Roosevelt's church, they did not recognize that what that boy did was virtuous, because it included violence. And there are times when virtue is acted upon in such a way that the greatest good is accomplished, sometimes through force. In any case, I say that a lot, huh? In any case, women are not inherently virtuous. They are not inherently moral. Neither are men. What we are is we are inherently fallen, and the better part of ourselves need to be called out of us. And on my part, it's my belief that Christianity does that through the person, the perfect man of both velvet and steel, Christ. Yours might be different, your belief might be different, and I'd like to hear about it. But in any case, it's my opinion. I got to get back to taking down the Christmas decorations. Until we talk again, Sláinte, take care.